Welcome to Talk Hospitality to Me. I'm your host, Victoria Magiacomo, and with me today, again, 2 weeks in a row.
Drum roll.
She's back again.
What do you think it is?
It's Maria Jacobo from Rhode Island Hospitality. Welcome back, Maria.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It's
a pleasure to be your co-host.
I love to have you. We're really excited for today's guest. It's also somebody different in hospitality, but a different kind of hospitality.
Yeah.
We have Eric Weiner. He's with the founder of PVD Food Trucks. Welcome, Eric. We're glad to have you.
I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. We're going to jump into it because I feel like we have a lot to cover in only a short amount of time. So if you could kick us off to kind of tell us where you grew up, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So I'm a New Jersey native. I grew up in Englewood, New Jersey.
Okay.
And I came to Providence in 1990 to go to Johnson & Wales. And I started my first business the summer after my freshman year at Johnson & Wales, which I had for 20 years.
Wow.
So I think that I can properly be called
a Rhode Islander?
Well, yes, but also a serial entrepreneur. Like, I haven't worked for someone else since I was 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it was your own business.
Yes.
You started your own business.
Yeah, so I started a limousine company the summer after my freshman year at Johnson & Wales. I did that for 20 years. And after I sold that, I pretty much jumped right into the food truck website and then the food truck event planning. So,
Wow.
my entire, entrepreneurial existence is kind of attributed to coming to Providence and coming to Johnson & Wales.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're
And
both
what-
Johnson & Wales grads, too.
We are, yeah.
We are.
So we got the alumni in the house today.
Once a Wildcat.
Yeah,
Always
a Wildcat. What did you go to Johnson & Wales for?
Yeah, so I received my degree in marketing.
Okay.
You're right. It's always the first question when you went to Johnson & Wales
Yeah.
is, are you a good cook?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, I know.
And especially now that I'm involved with food trucks as well, people make that assumption. But
Yeah.
I got my degree in marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got your degree in marketing, and how did the limo business come to life?
It was really, it was completely organic.
Okay.
The summer after my freshman year, I decided to stay in Providence. And, one of the things that was of interest to me was to drive a limousine. I thought it would be a perfect part-time job for the summer. You'd learn the area. I love driving. I love cars. I love
Cool.
people.
Yeah.
And I ran into this brick wall. Like, I applied for 3 or 4 chauffeur positions, and they all said, our insurance won't cover you because you're not 21. And then
Right.
the third person, as I was walking out the door, said, but if you owned your own limousine, then the insurance company would cover you. And so I just had this focused laser idea of, like, I would just buy a used limousine and I'd own my own limousine. And the original idea was to do it just as kind of like, at the time, there was no such thing as a side hustle. Like, that's
Yeah.
the terminology, right? But that's what it was. The idea was, it'll be a side hustle while I'm in college. I'll own this really small micro business. I'll get a lot of experience. And then after I graduate, I'll sell it and I'll figure out what my career is. And, that kind of moved quickly so that by the time I graduated Johnson & Wales in 1993, I had 3 limousines and 4 part-time employees. And it just
What?
became this
crazy.
business that organically grew over 20 years, and by the time I sold the company, we had 20 vehicles and 50 employees, and we were
Wow.
open 24 hours a day for 20 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was really fun.
That sounds
I know.
really cool.
Yeah.
And just it all coming together like that is amazing. How did PVD Food Trucks start?
Yeah, so PVD Food Truck Events is really the sister company of the parent company, which is foodtrucksin.com. So after I sold the limousine company, I started to do a little bit of small business consulting with some local businesses, and it was around the same time that Twitter was really making it so that mobile food establishments really, which started in Austin, Texas, and Portland, Oregon, and in LA, there was starting to be this food truck scene where they would really just let people know on Twitter where they would be. And you really started to see that grow, and Providence had 3 or 4 food trucks. But the thing that you started to see with these food trucks that were popping up around the country is that they were really struggling with thinking that if they just bought a food truck and had a Twitter handle, that people would just show up.
Yeah.
So, my idea originally was to talk to a few food trucks, and then we built foodtrucksin.com, which is really a niche website designed to help people connect to food trucks anywhere across the country. So a lot of people would call it, very specifically, Yelp for food trucks, right?
Okay.
So, that was the original concept and plan, build a subscription-based website. And then as we grew that for a couple of years, part of that process was driving around, flying, driving, traveling around the country, meeting food trucks in different markets, and going to food truck events. And eventually that turned into building and growing and doing a couple small, food truck events in Rhode Island, which is what PVD Food Truck Events was born out of.
Wow. So you started this whole business all over.
I know.
Putting together.
Nationwide?
So yes, but we're not producing events nationwide,
Yes,
right? So
okay.
the nationwide footprint is limited to, the website that helps people
you're
find
searching.
food trucks,
Okay.
consult for large companies, and do some large programs, but we're not building the kind of on the ground events that we're built, like Rhode Island and now a little bit of Massachusetts and Connecticut. Like that's our home base for the event production, right? There are a lot of people that are producing similar events around the country, that are experts in that, and we're doing the events locally, but then we're helping consult and helping food trucks and other event finders find food trucks nationwide. But our event production is pretty much limited to Southern New England.
Wow. And I know you don't cook, so I'm assuming you've never owned a food truck, right?
It's true, but one of the really fun things is that, whether it's been traveling around the country visiting food trucks or local, like I really feel like my expertise is in the intersection of small business and food and logistics. So there have been a lot of opportunities where I've jumped on a food truck and I've helped, a food truck owner who has someone that calls out sick, or has a family member that can't come into work, or is super busy and wasn't prepared for how busy they would be.
Yeah.
So although I am definitely not a chef,
Yeah, you can put a hat on.
I can put a hat on and I can take orders, or I can help, expedite and help.
That's
get
the
it done.
definition of hospitality. Right
Yeah.
there. I'll put any hat on.
Yeah.
Right? No,
Exactly.
it's absolutely
Need help with
true.
the dishes, need help sweeping, anything.
Exactly. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll learn more about Eric's story.
Welcome back to Talk Hospitality to Me. I am your co-host, Maria Jacobo, and today we are with Eric. Talk to us a little bit about the food truck scene and how it's evolved and a little bit of all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fun to talk about it, either from a national scope or locally. But let's talk about Providence and Rhode Island. Like, it has grown so much. 12 years ago when we started producing events, there were really a dozen or 15 food trucks that I would say were committed and operating year round. And even going back 2 years before that, when I started the Food Trucks In website, there were probably a half a dozen food trucks in Providence. Okay. And now there's well over 150 food trucks in Rhode Island. And if you start adding ice cream trucks and frozen lemonade trucks, that number grows even more.
Yeah.
But it's really amazing to see how in the last 10 years, and more specifically in the last 5 or 6 years since COVID, how much the industry has grown and what a robust segment of hospitality it's become.
And how many food trucks are in your program? Or
so it's one of the
events?
it's one of the things that's become a little bit challenging for us, and one of the reasons that we continue to add more events. Right, like this is our second year of doing 2 Food Truck Friday events. One of the reasons that we continue to add events and event series is that there's not a lot of real estate in Rhode Island, right? We're a real densely populated space, and when we do a public event, we're drawing over the course of a 3 or 4 hour event between 1,000 and 2,000 people. So we need space for the event itself and for the food trucks, for the entertainment, for the beer, and then we need space for parking. And there's not a lot of locations in Rhode Island where you can do all of that.
Yeah.
So it's one of the things we're always looking for. So we work with 85 food trucks on a regular rotation, but at any given event, we only have 20 spots, right? So we have way less demand. We have way more demand than we have supply. We don't have supply of the space to do larger events regularly. So we're doing 2 Food Truck Fridays now, so we can try to have 35 trucks on the road on Friday nights. We do a regular series on Thursdays and Saturdays at different locations. and fortunately there are a lot of other, regular events and regular opportunities for food trucks, but there are more food trucks right now than there are spaces for, for people to go on a regular basis.
How does that work as far as like those 20 spots? Is it first come, first serve, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's a lot of moving pieces, right? So one is longevity, right? Trucks that have been with us for 12 years, they definitely get, they get considered of the amount of time that they've been with us and how they've grown and we've grown with them. A lot of it also has to do with where the event is, right? When you're doing an event in downtown Providence versus when we're doing an event in Mystic, Connecticut, or in Cumberland, the consumer might have different tastes of what they're looking for. So at certain event locations, we might have more American-based food trucks, and in others more Latin or other type ethnicities. So the breakout, and we're always trying to, the worst thing for a consumer and for a food truck owner and for the brand that we've built is you don't want to show up to an event and have 5 ice cream trucks, right?
Yeah.
There's only so much business for ice cream trucks, and you want to have variety. And part of what makes the event so appealing to people to come out week after week or month after month is that they can come and have a big variety. So, when we're choosing trucks for an event, we're choosing it based on which trucks are capable of handling the size crowd that we'll have in an event, what types of foods will do well at a particular location, what the customers are asking for at that event, and then balancing what other trucks will be there so that when someone shows up to the event, they're getting a good choice of what they're eating, and that there's enough different variety that if someone wants a hamburger, that there aren't 5 trucks competing for that hamburger dollar, that there's just 1 or 2. So all of those things and availability, right? Not all of the food trucks do it full time. Some are doing it part time or aren't available certain days of the week. Some don't want to travel out of a certain radius. Some aren't licensed in certain towns. So
there's a lot of factors.
To keep track
and you
of.
have to
I
keep
feel
track
like
of all
I got to go. I'm getting a little stressed about the truck rotation for this weekend, thinking about all the things that go into selecting the trucks.
And when you say we, who's on your team? How many are making the?
Yeah, so we have a great team. So I have 2 full-time employees.
Okay.
Michael's kind of our, he wears so many hats. He's our bookkeeper, and he manages licenses and permits for the trucks, and he helps on location at the events when we need it. But Michael's involved in a little bit of everything. And then Nick, who works full-time for us, he is an event manager, and then we have a mobile sign division. So whenever we have an event, he goes up and sets up a mobile sign that says, "Don't forget, food trucks is Thursday." So Nick manages that part of the business. And then we have a great part-time staff of 8 people that are kind of event managers and event assistants that are actually at the events helping us set them up and break it down. But at the core, when we talk about scheduling the trucks and producing the events, like I handle all of the scheduling for all of the events myself. And so if you count up the amount of events we'll do this summer and the amount of slots for trucks, it's something like 2,800 slots for trucks over the course of the season.
Oh,
that's
boy.
crazy. I'm getting stressed for you.
I know.
I know you talked about you have like 2 events on Friday. I know one of them is at Roger Williams.
Yeah.
What other events do you have like every week set in stone? Yeah,
so really, Roger Williams Park Food Truck Friday has always been our flagship event, right? It's the first event that we produced, and really, the whole event side of this business was not the plan, right? Foodtrucksin.com, the online service, the website, that was the plan. But in 2015, when the zoo had a new CEO, they took over Carousel Village, and they had this idea of, rather than having a traditional concession stand, that they would use food trucks for some of the food service during peak hours. And they asked me if I would do that for them, and
they went to you.
They did, but I was hesitant. I running a concession stand really was very far outside of what we were doing. But the idea of using food trucks to provide some of that food service was very appealing. So we agreed to do that for the summer, contingent on them allowing me to try a couple of food truck night pop-ups.
Okay.
So we did a pop-up in middle of May of 2015 with 6 food trucks at Carousel Village, and 400 people showed up.
Wow.
And at the end of the night, when people are asking, when are you going to come back, we said, we'll be back next month. If this went really well, we'll come back next month. And numbers of people said, well, why not just come back next week? So we've been doing
We
it.
want you
Why not
sooner.
schedule more?
And that literally has turned into every single Friday from April through September since 2015, and
Wow.
and it's grown every single year,
Yeah.
and it really is what's been the springboard for the other events. So, that's turned into a monthly series in Cumberland and Lincoln and Warwick, and then, as I mentioned earlier, with the growth of the industry and with just the fact that Rhode Islanders don't like to travel too far out of their backyard. Last year we tried a second Food Truck Friday in Lincoln, which didn't quite get the traction that we were hoping. So this year we've been very fortunate to be able to partner with Newport Craft, and we've added a second 12-week series at Newport Craft in Newport. So to have a Food Truck Friday on Aquidneck Island, is really a good experiment for us. So
Especially for people on the island, they don't want
Right.
to travel over the bridge
Yeah.
to go to a food truck event. Why not have
Yeah.
one on the
Right.
island?
Yeah, so we're really excited to be kind of growing that. Those are our only 2 weekly events, the 2 Food
Okay.
Truck Fridays and Friday nights. Everything else we do is a summer series or a monthly rotation, and our goal is to kind of get out into the community, whether it's as far northwest as Burrillville or now as far south as Mystic. Our goal is to take the very simple formula of our events that works, that brings the community together, and repeat it in different areas to bring different groups together and out.
That's great.
That's awesome.
We're having great conversation with Eric. We're going to take another quick break and we'll be back.
Thank you for tuning in again. Today we are with Eric. Eric, tell us a little bit about how PVD Food Truck Events is successful and about how it's sustainable, your perspective on that.
So it's actually a little surprising to me. Not anymore, but it was. So when we did that first event in May 2015, I really felt like this is a monthly series or an occasional series, because Rhode Island is such a great fabric of hospitality and food, and I just think about the way our season runs in April. When we start in April, people are so excited to get outside after the long winters,
Yeah.
and I felt like Rhode Island is built for that, and people didn't need to come out to our events. But what we quickly learned was that, first of all, you can't have too many great experiences, right? So that no matter how many great farmers markets there are and restaurants and hospitality experiences for people are always looking for more great experiences. And we have found that what we've built is a really simple formula of community. And I think if you talk to most of our regulars and people that come out to our events for the first time, we've recreated what used to be kind of a town square gathering. Where we have so many customers that come to Food Truck Friday on a Friday night, and what's the appeal on top of all the other things we talked about the variety of food and supporting local business and live music and beer, the thing that's really most appealing is that we have this whole group of people that can give someone our schedule, say, look, this is when the food trucks are going to be at the Crown Plaza in Warwick, and I'm going to be there every month, and just show up. Friends, family, all ages, all backgrounds. People come, as solo visitors. They come with multi-generational families. And at Food Truck Friday at Roger Williams Park on Friday nights, we have hundreds of people that just show up without a plan, and they know that their community of people that they've invited in the past or the people that they've met are just going to be there.
I'm not going to lie. I do that a lot on Fridays because I'm so indecisive and I don't know what to eat. And my husband's a picky eater. So I'm like, let's just go to Roger Williams because then I can eat a little sample of everything on every truck and you can have a cheeseburger or steak and cheese, whatever it is. So it's so easy.
And you're supporting you're supporting so many great local small-owned businesses. We rotate in over 25 different local musicians and bands to our events. Almost all of our beer and wine from our beverage station are all produced locally. So there's a sense of community for both the consumers and also who they're supporting when they come out to our events. And it's really and sometimes we have to have conversations with people of well, why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you adding a kids zone with bounce houses? Why aren't you adding local makers? There's so many people that do those kinds of things so well that our super simple formula is food, drink, music, safe space. And it works. And it works. And there's so many other people doing other things that we don't feel like we need to get into those spaces.
Yeah.
And it's what we do well. So we just kind of rinse and repeat that, whether we're doing it at Diamond Hill Park in Cumberland, or we're doing it at Johnston Memorial Park in Johnston, or when we start newer series like we do at Capron Park in Attleboro, or like we just started this summer in Mystic at Tree Trails. Like, we just take that same formula with us wherever we go, and we've been very fortunate that the community embraces it, and it's a success.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I know, who would have thought from 15 years old and then going to Johnson & Wales and then doing the limousine business to now look at where you are now.
Yeah, and one of the things that's really funny is that the through lines between limousines and food trucks is super interesting to me. First of all, from a logistical standpoint of, like, you know, a snowstorm at midnight, and how are you going to get a chauffeur to where he needs to be at 5 a.m, to, you know, the Washington Bridge issues, and how do you get food trucks over to the bridge to be, like, the through lines are incredible. And the other thing that's really been enjoyable for me is that, you know, when I own the limousine, I'm very fortunate in my career, right? Like when you own a limousine company, everyone wants to know, like, who did you drive, and like, what do you do, and what are the stories. And then you move over to food trucks, and it's kind of the same thing, but more people get to be engaged and involved in it, right? More people visit the food trucks and have a food truck story, and so, you know, I've had this 35-year career of doing things that really excite people, that people really enjoy, and that I don't lose sight of that for a single moment of how fortunate that is for me.
That's awesome. And I know you definitely have something cool, right? A sticker. Can you talk about what those stickers are?
Yeah, you know, we do a few things that kind of, again, started just kind of naturally. One of them is our mug club. You know, we have a Good Vibes Tribe. Good Vibes Beverages is our beer station provider, and there were a number of years where people would come out to our events regularly, and I struggled to recognize all of our regulars. So now every year we have a mug club tribe, so you can buy a reusable mug. So when we see them out, we know who
I
our
didn't
regular,
even know that.
Right?
We need one of those mugs.
You didn't bring us one today, Eric?
I mean, like, the next time you guys come to one of the events, I might have a couple stashed away, but not too many people should know that because we sell out quickly.
Wow.
So, like, we just have a little emergency supply left. So if you show up Friday night, you know,
well, we know where we're going.
yeah, and then as our event series grew, you know, people kept asking us, where are you going to be when? So we started with a magnet, which has our full schedule on it. And then this year, because we have so many great partners, you know, like, we make these different series of stickers that we give out for free, you know, kind of promoting our events, but also the event locations where we host the events. So,
I love that.
You know, people can come to our event van. Again, we've got a great event staff, and we can always tell people where our next events are going to be, what food trucks and bands will be there. And then we also kind of give them a schedule with some free stickers on the back as a takeaway.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really
because some people, I mean, you guys do great with your social media and stuff, but some people aren't social media savvy. Right. So those stickers and
you can't
magnets,
put social media on your water bottle or your computer or your refrigerator.
Exactly. So that's awesome. If you could go back and just give yourself one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice look like for you today?
I mean, for me, and I hope that people, you know, in with different histories of work and different spots in their career, you know, can somehow appreciate that. But for me, it was always easy for me to focus on the things that were easy to do that I liked. And for me, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would kind of tie me down a little bit and say, focus on the things that you're not good at, learn them a little bit better, take time away from the things that are the easiest for you to do, and grow quicker and faster, and force yourself to do that. And I think that one of the things that's tough for entrepreneurs, and I see this a little bit with other small business owners too, is that you're not necessarily fully growing your business in all directions because you're having too much fun doing the pieces of it that you like. And I wish I had learned that, you know, a little bit earlier in my career, to force myself. Like, when you're a business owner, you get so fortunate in so many ways, but you also don't have someone holding you to task. And I wish that I had held myself to certain tasks a little bit better when I was younger.
That's great advice. We're going to wrap it up, but I just have to ask, is there a favorite event of yours? Is it the staple event that you've had since 2015?
You know,
or
so this is really the truth when it comes to the events. For the first 45 minutes of every single event, I have this ridiculous anxiety of today's the day that people stop showing up. Like we've done this for so many years. We've done this so often. Who's gonna show up. And for me, like it's the same experience I had when I owned a limousine company. When I'd look out my office, it wasn't how many limousines I had or how many customers we had. It was how many cars we saw parked on the street, of how many employees were coming out to work. So for me, my favorite event and my favorite like time at the events is when I look out after 45 or 60 minutes and I see a full parking lot of customers.
After the anxiety has
And I know that
gone
we've done
away.
our job again, and then I just fall in love with that event because we've brought the community together in the way that we
That's
set out
awesome.
to.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Eric. It was great having you on Talk Hospitality to me today. We loved your story, and we could keep talking all afternoon. So maybe we'll have to have a part 2.
Or we can just continue the conversation at
We could.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you guys for tuning in to Talk Hospitality to me. You can tune in every Friday at 3 p.m. and every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your day.